This is Atlantic Chase from GMT Games, and I have been in the process of working through the campaign game. I've never actually played the campaign game, and was revisiting all the solitaire scenarios and thought, let's try this out, go through the campaign and see how that part of the game functions. And so what you can see here is we're about to start operation number 4. The Royal Navy won the first operation. Germans have won the last 2. The first 2 are pretty close. Last one was a bit of a blowout, largely due to the presence of an historic anomaly. Yeah, you guessed it. So after Operation 2, there's a way to find out, with the fall of France, will the Germans gain access to a portion of the French fleet? And how this is resolved is the Germans get to roll 1 die, and in this case, the Germans rolled a 5, which is a pretty good die roll. And then the Allies get to roll 2 dice. And the result of this, if it's less than this, then bad things happen. The Germans are going to get some French ships. You can add dice to the Allied roll by yielding up victory points. Now, I just felt, chances are pretty good. I'm going to roll higher than a 5 with 2 dice. And lo and behold, I think I rolled a 3, something like that. It was bad. So the Germans got access to the French fleet. Now, this comes at a little bit of a cost too, because, and the way I've interpreted this, I could be wrong, but the way I've interpreted this is that when you use these French ships in each operation thereafter, it yields up 2 victory points to over to the Allied side. And so I could have gotten more French ships, but I didn't want to give them too many VPs because you're still going to have to fight with this stuff. So we'll see how this works. But in the last mission, these battleships got in after one of these convoys and just shot at the Kingdom Come. So they got enough VPs off of shooting up that one convoy. They did a ton of damage right, before the convoy could even disperse, which is a mitigating mechanic to minimize some of those losses. But now these convoys are escorted a little bit more closely with heavier ships owing to the increased threat to those convoys. Again, from the Kriegsmarine, not just the U-boats, but the surface vessels of the Kriegsmarine. So it kind of brings you up to speed as to what's going on here. In the second operation, that's the Norway operation, things couldn't have gone better than they did for the Germans. It was still a very tight, in terms of victory points, it was a very tight scenario, came right down to the wire. But they rolled very well in the invasion of Trondheim, went into Bergen first, Trondheim second, Narvik third, and the Allies completely blew. They threw a Hail Mary at Narvik, and it was disastrously repulsed, which sealed the deal for the victory. But one of the big wins was they did get that air base, which had a big impact on the outcome of that second operation. As I said, the third operation was a German blowout. The first one, you get a lot of pocket battleships, going around. The convoys are unescorted, and I think I was just, with the Royal Navy, I was pursuing them pretty aggressively, and the German opponent was pretty timid, and so they ended up falling short in that one. To win the campaign, you have to win 3 operations. So it is crunch time. It's like in a best-of-5 baseball series, and now it's game 4, and you're down 2 games to 1. Royal Navy needs to perform. Obviously, they're starting with a 2-point advantage, and they win tie. So the Axis got to get at least 3 points. How do you get points in the campaign? Completing your convoys will give you points for the Allies. The number of points that you get is dependent on whether or not the convoy was dispersed or remains undispersed. It's 2 points undispersed, 1 point dispersed. You get a point for sinking capital ships like battle cruisers and battleships like the Bismarck. No, pocket battleships do not get you anything. Or carriers. Yeah, we're going to be counterfactual since we have access to these beautiful French surface vessels. We decided to go ahead and get the Graf Zeppelin and forego the building of the Tirpitz. And so Lutyens is the captain. He's Herr Kapitan of the Graf Zeppelin for the Germans, and this is a reinforcement that'll be brought into play. So this should be an interesting counterfactual scenario here. All right, so crunch time for the Allies. They can get points, like I said, completing their convoy sinking ships. For the Germans, they get points for sinking the capital ships of the Royal Navy and the Allies, I should say. Battleships, battle cruisers, aircraft carriers. Those give you VPs. The smaller vessels like cruisers, light cruisers do not. You also get 1 point for every hit put in on a convoy. So when you get into these convoys, you can rack up a lot of points depending on the kind of firepower you bring to bear on that. So we do have some U-boats that are going to be making their presence felt. And for the first time in the game, Gunther Prehn is going to be leading some U-boats out. We have one that's ready to go with an ambush, a stealth operation. You can plop that guy down, and that's going to cause some problems for whatever trajectories are in the hex where that is placed. There's minefield laid off abreast, and the reason we did that is because we have a sizable portion of the Kriegsmarine in Saint-Nazaire. No one's in Brest. It was closed last operation due to Allied bombing, but it is Saint-Nazaire and Bordeaux remain open, and so we have a substantial body of ships in those two. We do have a light cruiser. It's going to play in Narvik, and of course the main Kriegsmarine is based out of Kiel, and that's where Scharnhorst and Gneisenau are located, along with the Scheer, the Hipper, and the Königsberg. The Bismarck sailed with Prinz Eugen, and they reached the safety of Saint-Nazaire, and the Graf Spee was making a run for the South American ports where it's been basing out of since the beginning of the war, causing a lot of headaches for the Allies. And boy, they almost chased him down. She was making a run for it, and she wasn't going to make it. The carriers were going to find her, and so what she ended up doing was doubling back all the way across back for the safety of the French ports. And the reason for that was to try to lure them into where we had a minefield, and that causes operational problems. When you bring your trajectory into a hex that contains one of these pieces or enemy bases or airfields, it causes you to gain an intel marker, and that provides options for the other side when you try to do an operation with a task force trajectory that contains intel markers. That's a simplified way of representing a mechanic in the game. So that was successful. I didn't think she was going to get away with it, but she did. She made it all the way into port, and so that's where they're located. And then, of course, in that same hex, we have the mighty French battleships, Bretagne, Provence, and Strasbourg, along with the Gloire, with its weirdly rotated French flag. So that's the score. That's what's going down. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the game, some people are looking at this and they're like, is this like Ticket to Ride? Yes, it's absolutely like Ticket to Ride. It's exactly the same game, if only Ticket to Ride was a completely different game. All right, what we got going on here is these little lines of sticks, these wooden pieces. They're all different. Each trajectory is produced by a uniform style of stick pieces. So you can see this one has no stripe, this trajectory has one stripe, and so forth. Those will all match up, those symbols will all match up with the task force display. And there's no hidden information in the game, although I think you could play it that way. It'd be kind of cool. But anyways, there's no hidden information here, so I can leave everything out until we decide to play the next mission. But what'll happen is all the ships that are in this slot here, they are located somewhere along that trajectory. And that's what makes this game so unique, is nobody, neither the owning player nor your opponent, knows exactly where along there the fleet is. So you just know it's somewhere in there. And that's basically how the game works. And as time goes on, these are going to be reduced, which narrows down the possibility of where the fleet, those forces actually are. And so once you have them localized, they become a station. And so the British start off with some cruisers positioned strategically to make it so that if any Kriegsmarine vessels try to break into the Atlantic, they're going to gain intel markers from passing through the minefield. They're going to gain intel markers from passing through these locations. And yeah, those battle cruisers could easily sink those cruisers, but they're going to leave some huge breadcrumbs along the way for the main surface fleet at Scapa Flow and at Clyde Liverpool. We also have a task force down here in Gibraltar to help this convoy safely make its passage owing to the grave threat located down here at Saint-Nazaire and Bordeaux. So that's what makes the game just so cool. If you're operating against one of these, what your goal is you need to narrow this down, and how you do that is you do a naval search operation. You total up the trajectory length of the target, add to it your own trajectory length. There's some other things that can come into play, but that's the basic version of it. And then you look at the number of the total value of that trajectory, and you add some modifiers to a 2d6 die roll. Look on the table, and it produces a result which will usually shorten this trajectory down, and sometimes put down a contact marker which will greatly help you in the future in order to actually localize it and attack it. You don't actually have to localize it to a station to attack it with air power, but to engage it with surface ships you do. So to really cause harm to these convoys, that's what you're going to need to do. And so that's what makes this game just so cool. It's a very playable game with some very fresh ideas on naval warfare. I would say this is less complex than other operational naval games, like PQ-17 from GMT Games is a very good treatment at the operational level. It's a bit more complex than this. And it does not play solitaire. This particular game, it actually has a 60-page rulebook full of solitaire scenarios, and it's not super complex. Each scenario uses maybe like 4, 5, 6 pages, and it kind of tells like a story, and so each of those you get to experience each side in different capacities. So it breaks apart the war in the Atlantic between the Royal Navy and the Kriegsmarine. And it breaks it into episodes, and you get to play that episode from the German perspective against the AI, then from the Royal Navy side against the AI, and it challenges you in ways that makes it feel like it does when you're playing against an opponent. So pretty cool. If you just wanted to play the game solitaire, this is certainly an excellent choice. There's also some mini scenarios that are just going to use the battle portion. When a surface battle develops, you're going to transfer your ships onto this display, and you're going to fight things out in a series of rounds using the numeric values on the ship counters themselves, and a pretty simple but not simplistic table. There's an advanced game that makes this have quite a bit more flavor, and so the advanced game rules basically deal with just this element, and you can incorporate that into your regular operational scenarios. But there are some, like I said, mini scenarios that will have the famous engagements, like the Graf Spee against the Exeter, the Achilles, and the Ajax in the South Atlantic. You can actually play that out, and you can play that in like 20 minutes or less. And so this game does have a lot of different things in it. So if you're interested, if you've been seeing me play this, you wonder what this thing's about, definitely check this out. It's on GMT's P500 right now for the reprint. I think this one's already got a production slot. So you definitely want to get in on this. This one sold out pretty quickly in the first round. And it's really been an engrossing game. It's one of those games that will not take you long to learn. There is an interactive tutorial that makes it ridiculously easy to learn the mechanics and how the rules work. How to play well will be something that will take you a bit more time. And so I recommend, if you get this, remember, you've got to think different. This game approaches things different. You got to think different. Give it some time, and you'll see the more time you spend with this, the more fascinated I think you'll become with it. So I'm Joel Toppin. This is a look at Atlantic Chase. I've been having this on the table here at the house. Hope you enjoy the video.